We've got best-selling author and entrepreneur Courtney Reum in the studio to help us speak like a man. And we'll play our game, False Start Me Up, and drink our nightcap, the shortcut to drunk, tonight on It's Complicated.
You're listening to It's Complicated with your hosts Jennifer Golden and Lauren Leonelli, coming to you live from the AfterBuzz TV studios in Los Angeles, California.
Hello, Master Daters. Welcome back for an all-new episode of It's Complicated.
The struggle is real when you're dating in the city.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Lauren. And that's Jen.
It still is.
And this is Lauren.
Still. I love that about us.
We stay the same every time.
Every week.
But not, because this week it's different. We are talking about, we are going to discuss how to speak like a man, and we're going to get tips from best-selling author Courtney Reum. We've got him in the studio. He's going to help us shortcut our way, maybe shortcut our startup, like his good old book here, and also shortcut our way to a dynamic duo, and maybe he's going to give us some tips on how to get there quicker, because he's all about getting there fast.
How to get unsingle. That's what the show should have been
God,
called.
Yes, so good.
So as Lauren said, Courtney and his brother Carter are the authors of the national best-selling book, Shortcut Your Startup, Speed Up Success with Unconventional Advice from the Trenches. So the brothers' goal was to share their insights and empower the next generation of entrepreneurs.
Yes, and Courtney started all of this off. He was an investment banker at Goldman Sachs, and then he and his brother established Vive, which is a vodka, and it's quite tasty.
It is.
I have had it.
We don't have it here on our
No,
desk
we
today,
don't have it here.
but you use your imagination and you could probably go buy it somewhere.
Yes, and they also created Vitafruit cocktails by Vive. These were the first line of organic, ready-to-drink cocktails. They were super tasty.
Before
Nick
like
Tasterson.
Skinny Girl and all that. Are they
Yeah,
even
well,
it?
no,
Or-
and it was like natural. It wasn't like chemicals and shit. And
Oh.
also, it tasted good, and it like prevented hangovers, kind of,
Damn, we need
because
that.
there was like things in it.
The good things.
It besides alcohol, yeah.
Then I don't know what you're talking about. So, guys, while the brothers were investing and providing guidance as advisors and board members to emerging businesses, while they were doing Vive, they were doing advising to.
yes.
Sorry, too much vodka. Guys.
It's also
fine.
we made it a strong one, but it's like Courtney is kind of like the person who does all the things all at once, like multitasking, not like a normal man, but like I think
We'll
he's
get there.
able to do that, and we'll get there about that.
Yes, but so
it's
they
hard
invested
to keep track. Yeah.
in Bonobos, Birchbox, Warby Parker, Pinterest, Lyft, Kavita, and Crave Jerky, which I've had. That's good.
It's good. I have had it too. It's very good.
So good job.
Yeah.
And then they sold a majority stake of Vive to a multinational strategic buyer, and that's how they started their business M13, which is an LA-based brand development and investment company that accelerates businesses, just like we're accelerating our alcohol intake
Yes.
right now with our drink today, and focuses on. They got to focus on their entrepreneurial stewardship of consumer brands. So
And
they moved
like-
one thing out of the way to focus on another.
And this was born. So it's all about like it kind of all collided and made a perfect little storm, and now they are where they're at, and it's pretty good. So, guys, Goldman Sachs named him as one of the 100 most intriguing entrepreneurs twice. Okay. He's been on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. He's an alumni of Columbia and Harvard. And he's single, so far as I know. Potential next bachelor? I think so. Maybe. Welcome to the show, Courtney Reum.
Hi.
How'd you like that introduction?
That was a great intro. I'm both really excited to be here and a little scared, which doesn't usually happen on these things. So
Well,
congratulations.
This is like a 2-on-1 date.
right.
So
You've
get
got
ready.
the intimidation factor going already.
Yeah, and
just like we like it.
I feel like if we were on a 2-on-1 date, we would totally scare the shit out of the guy across
We got
the
so
table.
many questions and answers. I don't think the guy would get to talk.
It would be like a game of double dutch, and we'd be talking the whole time, and he'd be doing like, "Can I jump in? Can I jump in? Can I jump
he
in?"
wouldn't be able to jump in, but he would be able to pay for both of our drinks.
Oh, and especially if it was a Vive cocktail.
Yes,
That would be so good.
Speaking of cocktails, guys,
Yes.
so we mentioned that we are accelerating our alcohol intake tonight, and that is because we're drinking our nightcap, the shortcut to drunk, a play on the book Shortcut Your Startup.
Yes.
Can't even speak anymore. But basically, time is of the essence, guys, especially in our 30s, so we don't have time to waste, and that's why we are drinking a double. and that's a Le Cocktail mixed with Tito's vodka.
Yes.
And what is this flavor we have here today?
Tangerine. It's very good.
It's delish, guys.
And I feel like, listen, we're all about like cutting out the unnecessary shit, right? Like this book is clearly about like getting to where you need to get fast. We talk about getting to like where we want in life quickly. When you go, next time you all do this, next time you go to a bar, order a double. Don't drink it as fast as you would normally, or drink it as fast as you normally would. But don't you think that just makes sense? Just get there.
Yeah, I mean, I see more and more people, especially females, who are like, I don't really want to hold a drink. I don't really want to drink. I just want to kind of like you guys be drunk. So they're like, I just do a shot of vodka or tequila like every hour on the hour and just see where the night goes.
That's actually smart too.
Yeah. I mean, I hate holding a drink. That is why I actually drink faster, is to put it down. And it's cold in my hand.
I
and
don't
I hate
envy
shaking
you
hands.
guys. Handbag plus a drink in the other hand.
Totally.
It's
So
just
much
a lot.
holding.
That's why you need a nice little clutch purse or a little one that has a strap on it, so you have your hands free.
You could invest in
Double
something
fist
like that.
or a double or whatever. Anyway,
Efficient purses for women on the go.
If I was going to do that, I would actually do, I really wish like the Merce or the man purse or the satchel was more generally acceptable. That's why I go to Europe for part of the summer, because you just need that. I mean, you guys can.
do you have a Merce, Courtney?
Not that I wear in the continental U.S.,
Oh,
but
my God.
outside of it, yes.
So he has to travel to wear his Merce.
Do the foreign women like it?
They don't mind it. It's
I
not
think
a
they are familiar
Here
with
it's a
it.
deal breaker. There it's definitely not a deal breaker. Depends what's in your Merce.
Oh
What?
my God!
Do
And you
people get
let
to
them-
ask?
You let them look through your Merce on the first date, Courtney.
Depends, you know. You got to be vulnerable, right? Show them what's in the
Sure.
Merce.
Open up your Merce and be vulnerable, everyone. Words
That
to
is
live
the-
by.
yeah, the
Courtney
meme of the
Reum.
night.
Okay, so you guys, we are going to go over some tips about how to speak to your man or like a man, and it's going to shortcut your steps and avoid miscommunications and misunderstandings. And we are going to list some tips that we found that we think are like generalizations about like things that maybe like guys aren't that great at communicating, and like how you can sort of get in there and shortcut your way to better communication and conversation. And also kind of ties into like how you personally, since you have experience in this with the women and in business, because we know you do well in both, right?
Isn't dating sort of a business? I think so.
These skills are transferable.
Certainly with apps, it's become a business. The more organized you are, the more streamlined you are.
Yeah.
Saves you time. I mean, our whole book is about time is the new money. And so time is the one thing that we all have in common, no matter how rich or how poor or how whatever. It's time. So yeah.
Okay, well
I think
then.
it is a business.
Okay, before we get into the tips for how to speak like a man or to a man, what would you say is the most like a time efficient way of organizing your dates, or remembering who these people are, or keeping track of your swiping? What would you say is like the best trick?
Or what do you do?
Yeah.
That's a good question. After years of being more diligent about it, now I try to kind of do like, you know, lead with the heart rather than the Excel spreadsheet, because when I was at Goldman Sachs, when you have very little free time, I actually used to have a spreadsheet and I would have names on it. And then it wasn't about keeping the girls straight. I had not enough free time to have that be an issue, but it would be like I would take notes on things they liked or whatever, or future
that's
activities.
nice.
So it was more like interests of theirs, things we could do. And then, you know, it would be easy that if you're like, okay, I want to go jump off a plane this weekend, then you can be like, all right, who's into adventure?
Call
Or
Melissa.
I would literally have categories.
Oh my.
But you know what though,
goodness.
that did come out sounding like, where is he going with this? Which is also kind of awesome. Even if it was like this girl, like one night stand to keep track of like who was who, even if it was that, who fucking cares? But it's actually kind of sweet that it was like interests of the women, so that when you were ready to go on a date, you were actually paying attention to what they were saying. And
Yeah, trying to be thoughtful and
Yeah.
do something. Right, especially, it's one thing once you know someone, but as you know, those first couple dates, if you just like, they're like, oh wait, we're going to a seafood restaurant, I'm allergic to shellfish. And like, that shouldn't be a deal breaker if it's just a harmless mistake, but I mean, for some people it could be.
And right off the bat, when you're just trying to figure somebody out, things like that could steer you in another direction.
Yeah, quick shellfish story. When I was in college, before cell phones at Columbia, this girl calls me, like, and we're supposed to go out on, say, Friday, and it's Wednesday. She calls me, and she's, like, real talking fast, and I could tell she's, like, schwitzing, and I'm like, yeah, what's going on? She's like, no, you know, listen, I'm really looking forward to going to dinner on Friday, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, I don't know how to say this, but, like, I think I might like you if you think you might like me, and if the date goes well, and long story short, I have, like, a near-death allergy to shellfish. So if you're thinking about that you might even want to potentially kiss me, at some point during the date, I would ask you not to eat shellfish 24 hours before. And I felt so bad for it. Can you imagine
shit.
having to do that, like, with anyone you go on a date with?
But that's like legit. She actually has to do that every time.
And I was literally taking her to what I thought was the fancy Korean barbecue place on
Shut-
campus, like $12 a person, but inflation adjusted. And so it really was a big deal. I'm glad she called.
Wait,
but that wasn't jumping the gun at all? Like, did she know
No.
where you were taking her in advance of this?
No, but I don't know. Maybe I mentioned I like sushi, so she was just keeping an eye out. But I just felt so bad for her.
Oh,
I feel bad for her too, but more just because, like, couldn't she have just waited like a beat and said, "Oh, where were you thinking of going on Friday?" And then she could have said, "No, let's not do that."
but no, but it
But
doesn't
I mean,
matter
Italian places serve lobster too.
but
then while you're there, you could have.
wait
okay,
though.
fine.
But
I
if
guess
he,
it's 24-hour
But if he
thing.
12 hours beforehand had fucking clams or something, she'd be fucked, and then she'd have to ask him right before he's gonna kiss her, like, "Have you eaten any shot?" Like,
yeah, we've
talk
already
about-
got like garlic breath going. Thank you, Lauren. You're clearly the brains of the group here.
Oh,
Oh.
listen,
Well,
already
not
talking-
everyone in this room went to Harvard, including Lauren
I did not.
and me,
I
both of us.
definitely did not go to
But
Harvard.
I know where it is. I'm going there this weekend. In fact, to Boston.
I like a man with an East Coast accent, and I like the hardcore sounding Boston accent. I know a lot of people don't, but I do.
Ugh.
Sounds rough.
Sorry,
and
family.
I haven't either.
Yeah.
If you spend 2 years in Boston, you will never want to hear the East Coast accent.
I probably not, but for you it's different, Courtney.
Or if
you
your
don't wanna-
family's from there.
you don't want to hear a girl speaking that way.
Well, only thing worse than a guy's Boston accent is a girl's Boston.
Yeah, but see, I like how it sounds rough.
I
and,
feel like they
manly.
all work in a bar. No matter what they
see-
do or where
in
they
a
were
bar.
at. Yeah,
In a
exactly.
bar.
But see, you guys are thinking like Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Good Will Hunting. That ain't how it sounds in
More
real
the
life. Where it's
town,
like,
actually.
move it, you asshole! I got a quado.
Yeah,
You know,
okay,
like-
I guess.
No, my mom's side of the family is from there, so it's very distinct. Like, you know their voices and their accents, and their words are just
Jan
different.
Golden, it's true.
Shout out to my mom.
Okay, wait. So really quick. So you used to have a spreadsheet, and now you don't. Now you say you lead with the heart. What do you? So do you? How do you still? You got to still organize it somehow.
Well, I mean, not to get too sappy, but I think at this point in my life, it's trying to streamline, not date as much, only
Quality
go on dates
over
when
quantity.
quality over quantity. And if you ever get to the point where there's a couple people you're dating and you're like can't remember the person, much less a few things about them. Either it means I'm dating too many people, or more likely that's not a great sign in terms of future prospects. So I kind of just lead with that.
Totally agree with that. That's good.
I do agree with that as well. And also, should you not want to use Excel, you can just use the Notes app in your phone, which I did.
Except for it's not sortable, and I'm a dork. So
You're right.
I
You
would
can't
literally
do, like, control
categories
find or
and then do
anything.
like control find. I would do VLOOKUPs where I'd be like girls who like don't have jobs where they work during the week, sorted by activities, and then you can
You
that's
guys-
when the sheet got a little lengthy.
You all just confused me.
Oh,
Technology.
she
freaks
doesn't
me
like
out.
Excel.
Okay.
I love it, actually. I Excel
It
my
just
life.
freaks me out a little bit. It's
love
fine.
those little boxes.
It's fine. I don't use it to write this show, and we do a very good job.
We use Google Docs, though, and we use Google Drive, which shortcuts our
It does
organization
shortcut because we
process.
can speak to each other on the app. Sometimes
Yeah.
when she gets on it, I'm like, hi!
Yeah, we're like, oh my God, we're doing it at the same time.
It's like we're texting each other.
It's the best.
It is
It's-
the
it
best.
is pretty
It's
good.
very efficient. So speaking of efficiency.
And multitasking.
Yes. So one of the things that this whole list of tips says is don't expect your man to multitask.
But hold on, though. You must talk about multitasking in this book, correct?
Yes, but I don't even know if we use the word multitasking because I think when I look at my own life, 5 years ago, it was like really trendy to be like, oh, I multitask. I'm on a conference call while I'm checking email,
While you're checking
I'm
your
in the
BlackBerry
bathroom, yeah.
and your
you're on a
iPhone.
date.
And I'm on a date and I'm in the bathroom. But I still want to be in the bathroom for what it's worth.
Always.
But now I really think there's a lot of new research that like, it depends what you mean by multitasking, but truly like half listening to a conference call while I half read an email, that's not doing anyone any good.
Sure.
So it's one thing to be on a conference call where I don't really need to be present, but I think I can pick out the finer points while I do other stuff. But true multitasking, I think now is not considered what it was.
But it's also, I mean, true multitasking means being able to be on a conference call and somehow extract all the information whilst doing something else, which they say is a more feminine attribute.
Or we can use a real life dating example. How about you're talking to your guy who's on his phone reading emails and you want to have a conversation about what to order for dinner. I'm just throwing this out there as a multitasking example. But he may not hear what you just said because he's reading his email, because they say men cannot multitask.
Or it's difficult for them to.
So, which is why they say women are the ones that have the babies, because they can like have a baby, make dinner, be on the phone, plan your day, I don't know, do life and stuff, whatever. The point is, men apparently cannot multitask as well as women. But obviously, you can invest in multiple companies at the same time. You can have your hand in a bunch of different activities like alcohol and books and traveling and all the things.
Right.
So,
Or it's about switching between activities quickly, right? I get right off of a conference call where I'm thinking very analytically and go right into a branding session where you have to think very creatively. Like that's how I
so you
think
can
about
switch gears.
switching gears and kind of tasks within maybe the gears.
That makes sense. That's
So
a
that's
good way
why
to think about
one and then the other, you can't do both at the same time, though. So still saying you can't multitask.
But you have to be able to turn yourself over quickly.
Yeah, but here's a postulate that I'll bring back because now I get where this whole thing is going is, I think most people today suffer from decision fatigue, right? So too much multitasking leads to too many decisions, and you just get burnt out of making easy decisions, like what I'm going to order for dinner. It seems like a chore. Just like decision fatigue of like deciding between too many girls, or if you're into boys, but like make it more just low grade, easier decisions among like more important things. I should decide between a couple girls I'm interested in and pursue one, not go after 10, because that's just too many decisions to make. It's too much multitasking.
So I think we should narrow it down. So let's say I don't know why we're going to order from Postmates, because that was a startup.
Don't order from Cheesecake Factory, because that menu has too many choices.
Exactly. So, but let's say I'm like talking to my guy and I'm like, okay, do you want this, or this for dinner?
Oh yeah, that could be good.
I would even say that's one too many choices.
I believe in black and
this
white.
is what I always joke when I get married and have my wedding planned. I want to be a part of it, but I'm going to assume it means more to her than it does to me. I call it left hand, right hand. Hold up something in the left hand, something in the right hand, and I'll give you my input, and you can take it or you cannot. But 3 choices is a lot. There's a whole thing on like the long tail of decision making. I think 2's generally like when I ask people what they want to do, it's interesting, especially on first dates. Occasionally can be mistaken for being like indecisive, which I'm the opposite. I always get accused of being too alpha, too aggressive, too whatever. So I'm always like, ask like 1 or 2 questions. Do you like this type of food or this? Do you want someplace that's this or that? And you just get like 2 kind of benchmarks, and then you can hone in on the bullseye really quickly, and it leads to a much better first date.
Makes sense, because you're not like, what is your favorite type of food, or what food do you feel like? You're like, do you like Chinese or do you like Italian?
Right.
And you just hone it.
Asian
and it gives them a
Italian.
chance to say Chinese or Italian, or it gives them, listen, if you stick with the sushi or Italian or something else, you probably hit the bullseye of their favorite. And if not, she'll go, I don't actually like those. I'm really craving Mexican. Great.
Done.
Tell me no more. I'll pick you up at 7. I got just the place.
Love that. Wait, okay, so there is a question that comes up when you're starting to date somebody that annoys me, like beyond. I can't handle it because it's too open-ended. What's your week like? Well, do you want my whole itinerary for the week, or do you want to know when I'm free? Ask a more direct question, you dum-dum.
A shortcut to the answer, because that is like now opening the door or Pandora's box to like a whole bunch of unnecessary shit that's going to make this conversation take longer.
Right.
And then,
or like, what are you up to this weekend? People ask that all the time. Well, I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing at every minute. Or were you asking me when I am free to see you?
yes.
Right. Or even like scheduling, right? Like I actually don't have an assistant schedule most of my stuff because I just keep my own schedule. So I always try to say, hey, are you free Tuesday at 6? And if they're like, no, but I'm free Wednesday at 5.
Love it.
And if that doesn't work and we go back and forth like twice, and I'm like, okay, I got to pass it off too much. But to your point, it is seriously, that's how to shortcut any relationship that I'm embarking on. When they just hit you in the middle of the day, like, hi. What do you write back? I guess, hi.
Yeah.
Or like, what are you doing? Hey, I tried something totally different. I'm sitting at work, like running and gunning, grinding, just like I do the other 364 days a year. But,
Yeah.
like it's something like, and again, to your point, like, do you want all the specifics or what are you doing? Oh, I'm getting my nails done in the middle of the day. No, I'm at work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
It drives me insane. Like, don't ask a dumb
Be
question.
A good friend of mine got married like 5 years ago, and he this is what he tells his wife. He goes, look, I'm going to work from whatever. He works pretty hard, but not great. Like, I'm going to work at 7 a.m. I'm coming home at 5 p.m. You're welcome to call me during the day. If you call me during the day and you want to chat for 30 minutes, I will chat for 30 minutes. But just know I'm not coming home at 5 p.m. And I'm coming home at 5:30 because he's very like planned. And he's like, every minute that you distract me from something, whether it's a 1-minute text or a 30-minute call, is 1 minute later I will come home. And you should just know that. But I'm down for it. And I think there's some merit to it.
There is running a tight ship, A, and B, it is giving the expectation, like it is putting it out there. Like that is being clear and specific, and this is how I work. Like, no room for error there.
No,
This
I mean,
is it.
even in our business dynamic, I mean, obviously, like, we're best friends, we work together, all the things but when we go into business mode, like, we'll be having a conversation about, like, boys or, like, God knows what, and then it'll be like, okay, I am actually going to be off the computer from the next 1 to 2 hours, so I will not be working on what we're supposed to be working on. I will be back, though, later, so you know what to expect. So that we're not just sitting around waiting for each other. We've, like, gotten into a groove of saying, like, I will be doing this, but not now.
Yeah, because life happens. But you have to give the expectations out, and I think that works. It's all part of communicating and getting to where you need to go quicker. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time with a bunch of fluff.
And also, you wonder a lot for no reason.
Yes.
Like, if you have information, you don't have to wonder.
So Courtney's solution is 2 choices.
I love 2 choices.
I'm going to do that.
Me too.
Okay, I like it.
I think everyone listening and watching should do that as a homework assignment for this week.
Just try. Even the difference between 2 and 3 is a lot. Doesn't sound like it. But
Right. Write us and tell us.
No, I agree. And also, the next one is that some people say that men have a limited capacity for detail.
Yeah.
So and maybe this is different for you. Like, when you're at work, do you find that you're paying attention to detail in a different way than you do? It sounds like you pay attention to detail, though, even with women.
You
If you're
plug
making
it
a
into an
fucking
Excel
spreadsheet. But do you think, like, do you find even in the workplace, like, when you're like partnered up with women or you're working with women, like, they kind of pick up the slack there for you? Do you think or is it not really a man-woman thing in your eyes?
So you're saying that you think men have a limited capacity for detail?
Some,
Like,
they
you
say
actually
in general.
just did that. What you did was you extricated the important part of what Lauren said.
Yes.
Right.
And you ignored everything else. And so it was like all the minutia of what she explained to you. You literally pulled out the one piece that made sense to you as a man.
Well, no, it was a clarifying question because it's like sometimes just for the counterpoint, I ask a girl a question. 5 minutes later, I'm like, sorry, did you hear the question I asked? Because you didn't answer anything remotely to the question I asked. And I'm like always looking down. What am I looking for? The point of that story. Just saying. No, I think I don't believe that to be true, but I think it's contextual and situational. Meaning, if you called me in the middle of the day and wanted to tell me something, I seriously am always scared to be like too social in the middle of the day if someone calls me I'm dating, because if you ask like 2 questions and it leads to a 10-minute conversation I wasn't planning for, like, that's a lot. Versus if we're just at dinner, not a care in the world, I want all the details in the world, but it's very situational.
That makes sense. Time and place. I mean, so I was on a date not too long ago where I was telling the guy about like the story behind my new couch, and it went on for 30 minutes, and he made sure to make fun of me for that. He's like, I didn't realize one couch had a 30-minute story. And I was like, but I have to tell you every piece of the story because it all got us to this couch and why the couch was important to me. And it's funny because like he would have just told me like, I wanted a couch and I bought the couch and now it's in my house. And I was like, well, I really wanted this couch and it meant so much. And
Did you guys go on a second date?
Oh yeah, now we're dating.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Well, he makes
really
fun of me. I
humored
made
you
fun
on the
of him.
couch story, yeah.
Well, we both we talk for hours a lot of the time. There's a lot of details on his end too. So
Right. But see, my guess is he wouldn't have tolerated the 30-minute couch story that well at like 1 p.m. on a Wednesday. This
probably
was over
not.
dinner.
No, in fact,
Totally right.
Yeah, actually today we were talking about making plans for next week, and he's like, I can't do it now, but I would like to do it later, after work.
But that's good, though. That's kind of like saying, hey, listen, if you call me and I'm at the office and I'm spending 2 minutes on the phone with you, that gets me home at 5:32 or 5:02.
Right. But I have a theory that I try to adhere to so that you don't seem like super overscheduled in your life. I think I told you I'm here like 2.5 days of the next 31, which unfortunately is fairly set in stone. But when I have free time or when I block it out, I like to call it planned spontaneity, meaning like, oh, I have a night tonight or a part of this weekend where I can do something really fun. I don't know what it is, so the time's been blocked out, so that's the planning part, but then I want to do something like spontaneous.
Ooh, like what do
I like
you do
that.
that's spontaneous?
What did I do?
Skydiving.
Yeah, I mean, no, LA's got so much stuff. What have I done lately? I went to this wolf sanctuary. You know, the guys that I know the people that own If Only, and it's like one of their best. You go to a wolf sanctuary.
Did
and
you get to
interact with
pet them and kiss them and touch them?
Yeah, all
I
that.
want to do
Did you
that.
put the photo in your dating profile?
No, but I mean, I definitely chucked down Instagram stories. But I did the goat yoga where the goat clawed the shit out of my back, and it was supposed to be therapeutic.
I don't
You know,
get
you
that
just-
at all.
Yeah.
I don't understand the goat part of it.
But,
I'm sorry.
you know, it could be a fun date.
Oh, totally. I think it's fun because then you could like laugh together about like why
Right.
you're doing it and why people do it, and it's funny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I still don't really understand why it's a thing.
Okay, you know what? There is another important thing here that we need to touch.
What
There's
is
a
it?
couple. There's like 10 different things here, but we're gonna just like touch on the most important ones. Like, men thrive on appreciation. Now, our podcast, our fairy podfather, who is the founder of our network, Brian Howie, he hosts this show called The Great Love Debate, and it's like a live debate, and it's awesome, and he talks about different things. He hits different points every time and in different cities, but there are some things that he constantly brings up, and one of them is he talks about the 3 things that men always need, and we're actually going to talk about this on an upcoming episode too, because it's so interesting. And he says that they are to feel admired or respected, appreciated, and needed. But he asks the women in the room, like, what do you think it is? And they're like, oh, he wants to have sex, or he wants to watch sports, and I don't think he's wrong. He's like gone around the world and talked to people, and I think this is sort of like a well-rounded idea. Admired, respected, appreciated, and needed.
Do you agree with that? That those are the 3 like fundamental things you need
to
from
feel.
a partner?
Well, I don't disagree with any of it. I actually adhere to, because I met him a few years ago and really buy into his stuff. What's that guy? Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages.
Uh-huh.
As cheesy as it is, there's like I think it's like 80% there, so it kind of covers the basics of what you're saying. To address the sports thing, I mean, you're talking about being admired. That's like a basic fundamental need. I don't have a basic fundamental need to watch sports. Like, I won't die if I won't do it. I just really like to do it.
Oh, no,
So
yeah.
those are different like levels of the
these
pyramid.
are the 3 that he says. So just
Right.
the
Yeah.
whole admired,
Yes.
appreciated, and needed. Do you adhere to those?
Yes, because I think fundamentally you go back to like gender roles and hunters and gatherers, and woman is taking care of the family, like guys going out hunting. Like, if you don't feel needed or you don't feel like admired for the things you're going out and doing, it gives you less purpose. So yeah,
Yes.
that's why I'm saying I don't disagree with those. Those all seem right.
Now, being that you work in the startup world and in business, and there are more women that are coming up in the business world, and they are CEOs and they're badasses too, and there's this whole boss babe thing and whatever. So, with that being said, they can make their own money. They could hire a handyman to build that IKEA furniture, or not buy it at all because they buy more expensive furniture from Restoration Hardware or somewhere. I don't know. But they can do all the things you can do. So how do you feel that plays into working in this environment, but also being needed and appreciated when they can do the same things?
Yeah, like, I don't need a man to do whatever. Like, how do you then communicate with a man if that's how you feel?
I think, again, it depends. I mean, even something like security, right? If you feel safe with someone, like, that doesn't necessarily relate to how successful you are in work or what job you have. I mean, you could even be dating a girl who could bench press more than you theoretically, but the guy still makes you feel safe. I mean, it's feelings like that. So I
Safe
think
you feel emotionally, probably. So, like, you
Yes.
can trust the person. They're a good partner. They're not going to just up and leave you and
Or
cheat on you and be a horrible human.
Yeah, or there might just be something they do that makes you feel safe, like when they hold you a certain way, or they touch you a certain way, or look at you a certain way. That just
Yeah,
a
or just
feeling.
like, someone's just being a guy just means just like taking care of shit, right? Like, I will plan the night. I will do this. I will make sure that these things happen.
Do you think a guy has to always plan the night?
No, for sure not.
But it is going back to gender roles and being the caretaker, and that's another thing that men are
Being
providers
providers.
here. It's like that kind of, I mean, yeah, you don't want to completely eradicate that and just be like, it's all fair game. Like, there is part of you that is conditioned, or there are gender roles or societal ideas that, that go along with this. Like, the men are the hunters or the chasers or the whatever. So you can't completely just say we're all on a level playing field. I feel like that's what's kind of messing things up
Well,
lately.
I think that's what, I mean, I always say it's like what makes it tricky to be in relationships right now is that, like, so I want to treat you like a peer and equal, which I should. I want to open the door and be chivalrous and do all these things, yet it's hard to kind of be your best friend, your lover, chivalrous, but not be a misogynist or like view gender roles the way they traditionally have. It's like hard to
Navigate.
balance that whole soup.
I think that as long as you know that you're not, or as long as you feel that a man isn't doing these things because he doesn't think you're able.
Right. Like,
Then-
you don't want to feel
Right.
deficient in some way.
No, but it cuts both ways. Like, I mean, someone I dated not too long ago, it was like, it all depends. Like, I call it's just like the benefit of doubt or the way you choose to perceive a situation. I would like open the door for her, like, 8, 9 out of 10 times. But I don't know, I'm making this up. The way your car's parked or whatever, or I'm holding something so I don't walk around and get the door. I swear she would only talk about the 1 out of 10 times I didn't open the door, not the 9 out of 10 times I did. And
So
I'm
that's
just
being not appreciated
just,
for that.
Right, but I guess you could view it either way. I mean, she was like, well, you either open the door for me or you don't. And I go, I don't know it's 100%. Yeah, she was a little high maintenance. I like the look on your face. But
you're also not somebody that works at a hotel.
Right, and that's what I mean. It's
Well,
like,
that's what
it just
he's
depends
saying,
it all starts with what the
I
expectation
mean, listen,
Oh,
life
I hope you stop seeing that person.
is. I did.
Okay, phew,
Yeah.
because yikes.
life happens. Like, get over it. Also, it's going to be okay. But yes, focus on the positive things too. I mean, you have to do
I'm
that.
offended by that one person that is giving females a bad rap.
Well, listen, and there's
Want
another
her
thing
gone.
on this list. Men want to make you happy, right? So they need to know that, and like anybody would want to make someone happy, but this is, going on a list we found of like things that men need. They don't want to feel like they're doing the wrong thing, or you know what I mean, like they're getting a positive reaction. So in this situation, you don't focus on the fact that there's other things that are happening in life in general. You got to focus on the good stuff. In business, it would be the same way. You don't walk into a meeting and pitch something to somebody and they say maybe like, oh, I don't know if that'll work, but then there's other things in the meeting that you're talking about, and then you leave there going, oh, that thing's not going to work. Like, you would get nowhere, right?
Yeah.
You would just be going in a circle or moving backwards, and that's in business, in love, in anything. I think these skills, like we're saying, are kind of transferable. Like, if you're trying to get somewhere quickly and not waste time, we're all in our 30s here. I think in general, people don't want to waste time. In love, we want to get to where we're going. And like you say in this book, like, there's so many different things you can do to like get rid of the fluff and just go for it.
Trim the fat.
Trim the fat. A lot of it has to do with communication, and I'm sure that this happens on a daily basis at work, in the office too. Probably makes you a better boyfriend.
Yeah, I mean, I what's the name of the relationship there? It was Esther Perel.
Oh yeah,
Love her.
Who a lot of people know her now. I met her a long time ago, and she just has like a few basic like ground rules, right? Where it's like, don't bring up like serious stuff with your partner after like 10 p.m., right? I mean, how's that usually going to end? Or like, and it's hard, but she actually believes in like scheduling little times for things and just basically ground rules, because not that it should be a business, but like, would you ever call your co-founder of a company at 11 p.m. unless it was an emergency? Be like, hey, I was just thinking about this and it's bad news. You probably wouldn't. Like,
Yeah, good
You'd
point.
schedule a meeting. There's a time and a
Right.
place. And so it shouldn't be approached like a business, but you should not take things for granted and extend the same things. And so I think that's a big part of how people
for sure.
would do better in relationships.
And obviously, a number one quality in all of this is being confident. Like, this is kind of in the office, in love. Like, you don't want to be overly anything, but like, have a level of confidence. Believe in yourself and what you have to offer on a date, in a meeting, because people really are receptive to that.
Yes, and also you don't want to present like your feelings to somebody. Probably like, imagine a girl saying to you like I would really like to like be your girlfriend, and then like hides under the table because she's so embarrassed and not confident in that you like her at all. You'd be like, I don't like you anymore. Grow, not a pair, but
Grow a vagina.
grow a vagina.
Although you probably have one, but that's the
That
tough,
girl, not
that,
you.
anybody.
And the
Or
person
whoever.
saying it, maybe, I don't know. But the point is you want somebody confident, not arrogant, not a douchebag, not an asshole, not a mean girl, or like what that book was, like Men Love Bitches.
Why Men
but
Love
like
Bitches.
somebody that has like strength behind them, knows what they're worth,
Is that
values
appealing? Is that appealing to you in business and in love, confidence? Or are you, I mean, some people might differ on that.
For sure. I mean, I think in business, it's like, there's a lot of entrepreneurs I meet where I'm like, I don't know if I would any day of the week take a pretty good idea with a killer entrepreneur who just has that thing, that it thing, versus what seems like a really good idea and a entrepreneur.
Like if somebody doesn't sell it themselves, then
Yeah.
like, or they don't believe in it, and they're like, I think this could be
Does-
something
I
that
could
works.
name you companies, even ones that you mentioned in the intro, where they did not, in my opinion, deserve the outcome they got, but they got a really good outcome because if you do well enough, like the right founder can almost like will it there, or like we had a company that we had to write off recently where it was actually doing pretty well, but the founder just wasn't able to like sell the dream and raise more money, and the right person would have just like willed that, maybe not to an eventual successful outcome, that can be hard to do, but he would at least have
Prolonged.
willed it to the next step. And sometimes, as long as you don't lose, you win. As long as you live to fight another day, you have more opportunity and more money and more time afford you that. But
I've definitely seen startups. Actually, I've worked for one or two. You worked with anyway. Where we're like, how on earth is this company still in business?
Yeah.
What did that person say to some sad person that believed them that this company is going to do well and that they should give them lots of money?
But with enough time and enough money, anything's possible, right? Slack, which we're investors in,
I love Slack so much.
But do you know Slack started as a an intra-gaming messaging thing. They noticed how people were using
Slack.
it, pivoted to what Slack is now, right?
Yeah.
Like there's tons of stories of those companies that had lots of money or the right people, and they, we say it in the book, but most companies are built off one or two great insights. And it's crazy that like something as simple as it is can lead to a multi-billion-dollar company, but it's because you have the right people, you're watching, you're astute, you see the insight, and you build.
Just like in love, it's a very simple thing. Like there's a couple things that you really match well with and on like a moralistic level, and things just can take off. And don't you think that, just like we're saying with confidence, a woman who might not be, and I can say this about a man, but for you, a woman who might not be like, oh my God, drop dead, like gorgeous, physically attractive, like you would think, and it still has a level of attraction, but is confident, that makes that person more attractive or sexy.
Yeah, and like for men and women, I think it's like I think I've started to put more emphasis on like noticing like a real genuine confidence, not like an LA I'm hot and I know it confidence, but the minute I call it, it's like an M&M hard candy shell, but the minute you crack through that, it's like mush because they're only confident in like one part of their life or that they're attractive, but there's no substance behind it. And I think it can go the other way too, because I think all the things you asked about, confidence, happiness, and even just like generals, they all play into each other. Sure. I think the biggest thing that goes the other way for women is that, especially women who are doing great things like y'all or who are back out, starting great companies. I'm totally good to be with one of those, but you have to be careful, however it is, to not emasculate the guy, because that is the number one reason that I think your relationship will end.
Yeah.
Right, because there's a way to have
How can you avoid that? How can you avoid emasculating them if they are that person, but they still have a feminine side?
Because let them take care of you in a way, be able to receive that, right? Because it doesn't mean that you're saying you're not able to do that. It's just you saying, I would like to do that for you. That's just the viewpoint.
Or it's like, right, if you're Sheryl Sandberg, who's the CEO of Facebook, like you have to find a way to not make your husband or your boyfriend feel like everything you do is like second fiddle to her, right?
Sure.
And she's been in a bunch of relationships, so she must be doing it well, but you still have to the earlier question, I think you just have to look for the pockets where they feel appreciated or do whatever, and it's not, as with any relationship, it's probably not about like, I'm better than you or who's better at this. It's about like the pieces fitting together and being like, not every partnership has to be 50-50. It just depends, like, as long as those persons, if you're 70-30, as long as you're 30%, feels unique and valued and everything else, I think that's what matters.
And don't focus on when he doesn't open the door, the one out of
goodness.
Thank
however
you.
many
times. Oh my
times.
gosh, that's ridiculous.
So ridiculous.
So I'm still mad about that. But also I do think too what you're saying, it makes a lot of sense when you like are dating somebody, like not to date somebody of like terms, because like if you go date like a CEO type person or somebody that's also an investor, what are you going to talk about work at home? You do the same thing. So I don't think that you then add value to each other's life. But let's say you do what you do.
Yeah,
and then
you could, but
like it's also whatever. But let's just say you're dating somebody that like rescues dogs. That person does something totally different than you, and like maybe they're more nurturing and you are more like a problem solver. So like you can solve the problems of what happens in an earthquake, but she's gonna pack all the bags for like when you have to go travel, or like, I mean, you're just doing different things.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Just obviously let each other, flourish in the areas that you're strong at. And this is in business too. Like this is why Courtney doesn't work by himself. He's got his brother with him. He's got whoever else, helped on this book, or however many employees you have. Like it's all part of like extracting things from people and strengths from people and receiving the information, communicating correctly. Obviously, really quick, we're gonna play a game with you, but what is like an important message or a couple of important tips that are from this book that you would like to like make sure people know and that need to read this book because?
And this is just in business, or you want me to relate them back to love too?
What this book is about.
Whatever this book is about. And obviously it's a best-selling book, so people are reading it. But for those of you who haven't.
That might listen to our show or watch our show and are like, oh, that's interesting. I haven't thought about like that kind of business yet, and now they're going to read this book.
Okay, sure. Since you guys have hit on communication a lot, this isn't really a chapter in the book, but maybe it's a through line, is just that, in the world we live in, like, good communication is so important because there is information is not the problem. There's so much information out there, but how you distill it down, how you extract it, and then how you synthesize it or how you share it with someone else is so hard to do, easy to talk about, tough to do. And so I think when it relates to relationships, I'm a big believer having more communication, or at least communication parameters, or better communication leads to less communication. And the way it happens with like employees is like, I have a once a week standing call. They know that like I like an update on this thing every 3 days, even if it's gonna take a couple weeks. So I don't check in and go every 3 days because I think about it, hey, what's the status of whatever? And so like, as long as you set up your parameters for good communication and everyone kind of agrees to them, then I think it leads to better communication and less over time, even though it can feel like more in the beginning.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the first chapter of our book is basically called Get in the Trenches. The theory being that most people just don't go nearly deep enough when they're thinking about an idea or researching something. I think the same applies to relationships when you're meeting someone. It's like, oh, they seem great. I mean, how many people seem great after 1 date, less great after 2 dates, after 3 dates? You're like, what the heck was I thinking, right? And it's not that you necessarily do anything differently because these things take time. But in general, I think we all have a tendency to do this, is like you start to fall in love of what you think the person's like rather than what they're actually like.
Totally.
And I think it's a combination of emotion, but also just not really going deep enough to understand, to get in the trenches of what they're about.
They're also only showing putting their best foot forward. So you're only allowed to see the good parts and not the shadows. And this is why taking time sometimes is important, but there are ways to like remove the fluff to get to that important end goal quicker.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Also,
like the
if
old
you don't go in the trenches, you're never going to know what it's like, and then you
Totally.
might regret not having gone further with that idea or into that business or the experience that you should have.
Yeah, and I've had this happen with me where like I just meet someone and I'm like attracted to them physically, and we start hanging out, and you like, listen, I love my life and would trade it for very few people. So it's like, oh, come with me to this event and go do this, and all of a sudden, it's great, but it's like I've kind of just plugged and played them in my life, or we've just ended up doing all these things that like who wouldn't show really well or have a really good time. But then I step back and go, wait, I don't really like know them. I haven't really I don't know what makes them tick. I haven't like asked them the hard questions. So.
Right.
It's like The Bachelor.
Hard for you when you're busy, but God, and I feel like you could be the next Bachelor.
You
Courtney.
should be.
You should totally do it. And really quick,
I think I might be past my prime. We were offered that like 10 years ago.
You
My
and your
brother and I
brother?
were going to go out
Shut
together.
But you would be
when
a
we
much
first moved
better
down.
bachelor knowing what you know now than you would have been 10
who
years
cares?
ago.
Ari, the last Bachelor was. Oh, I think we should let's nominate.
Okay,
you.
we're
I'm
gonna
gonna
nominate you. Okay, but real fast, we have to play our game in like 5 seconds.
Yes.
So Lauren,
It's okay. So dating apps, like they all start from somewhere. They're startups, and we know that first impressions are a really big deal on picking a dating app, and then once you get on the dating app. So then
creating a bio.
and
That's
creating
a
a bio,
whole thing.
and we just know that like it's all about first impressions, kind of. So we are going to name some dating apps, and you need to tell us if they're real or fake. So if they're fake, you're going to say made up. And if it's real, if you think it's real, you're going to say startup in our game called False Start Me Up. So we're just going to list it, and you're like,
Made up or startup? Okay.
Made up
Exactly.
or startup. Okay.
I'm gonna go on a limb here and say I hope I'm good at this because I'm really close with the founder of probably the biggest dating app, and I'm invested in another one. But let's
Okay.
see.
Well, these are obscure. So ready?
okay.
Yeah. Ugly Schmucks.
Startup.
damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're correct. Don't go cheating now.
Made up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn it.
Please.
Clown dating.
That's a startup.
Yeah, it is.
Equestrian Cupid.
This one might be my downfall, but I'm gonna go startup.
Damn.
Oh fuck. Just DTF.
Oh, I wish that was a startup. I think it's made up.
It is.
How are you so good at this? Okay, how about STD match?
Oh, please let it be made up.
Is that your
not.
final answer? It's fucking real.
Sorry.
Courtney.
Actually, that makes sense now that I think about it, but that's just disturbing. But I feel
Okay,
bad. That was-
last one. Eyes wide shut for the kinky blind.
Gotta be a startup.
It's fake.
I started so well and I trailed off.
I made that one up.
It's okay.
Well,
It's
once
like
you get into
opening the
deep
door every
fetishes, the
song.
one before threw me off. You
I
primed
know,
me that
I
it was
know.
like, yeah.
It was all part of my plan. Oh my God. Okay, thank you so
Okay.
much. We have to let Courtney go because he is literally leaving and flying to New York because he's doing this kind of stuff, and he's just so busy and all over the place. Thank you so much for coming in. Remind everyone where they can find you and your book.
Yes. Well, my company's called M13, so you can always find us at m13.co. And our book, Shortcut Your Startup, is thankfully available most places books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, online, and most airport bookstores around the country if you're traveling a lot like me.
Amazing.
Okay, great. And where can everyone find you? Jen?
You guys can find me at Jennifer Golden on all the social media platforms out there.
And you can find me at Lauren Leonelli on all the social media platforms as well. And don't forget to go onto our Patreon site. Patreon.
I think it's Patreon because of Patron.
Patron.
And it's also a startup.
It is. And donate and help keep the lights on, and follow us on Complicated Show on all the socials, and tune in next week for our guest of the wildly popular podcast, Wine with Kelly Keegs. And we will be back here next week drinking more and talking about love and dating.
And stuff. What men need, actually.
Yes,
so
that's
this
true.
continues next week with a female perspective.
That's right.
Who
All
likes
right.
to wine while drinking wine.
Just like us.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? Okay, thanks so much, guys. We will see you next week.
Love you long time.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.